Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of What's the Nerd? Today, me and Leighton want to get into the revival of the Predator franchise, Predator Killer of Killers. I'm going to start us off by saying this movie was just fun. From start to finish, I was locked in, had a great time, and
Locked in,
honestly,
baby.
one of the coolest things I thought about this movie was it being an anthology covering some different time periods that we've never seen in this franchise and seeing how it all tied together. But Leighton, what were some of your initial thoughts on the film?
Yeah, that was super awesome. I was geeked about it the minute we watched the first trailer, you know? And I don't really ever get super excited about animated projects. Like the only animated projects I can think of in the last like decade that I really was like, yeah, I have to see that day one was like Into the Spider-Verse 1 and 2 and
Invincible.
Invincible. Like every time they release a new season, I'm like, yeah, that's pretty cool. But other than that, like I'm not a big animation guy as much anymore unless I'm watching something with my kid. So when Killer of Killers got announced, at first I was like, like I need to see like a new Predator movie, but I don't really want it to be animated. But then we got the trailer. I was like, okay, I'm hyped. So like I've been looking forward to this for a long time. And bro, like within the first, I don't know, couple frames, like I was like, yeah, here we go. Like I'm hyped. Like from start to finish, I was literally locked, like you said, like locked in. Like because what I will say, the best part about this movie, I think, is the pacing. Like there's
Hmm.
not really ever any time for like long dialogue or lulls in the film. There's not any parts that you're like, okay, this is enough. Like each fight sequence goes on for just enough time to keep your attention, but like make sure it's also worth the fight. Because it's like for me, when I saw that they were going to juggle three different time periods, right? And the way they kind of set it up, spoilers for those who haven't seen it. So if you haven't seen it, come back and listen to it when you have. Um, they obviously after the first encounter they show like that protagonist is now on a ship somewhere with a collar and like oh they're probably going to do that with each protagonist and they do and then there's also an in plot right with all of those characters so I was like oh my gosh like this movie's only like an hour and a half long how are they going to juggle all that but still give us enough depth for each character and they nailed it I think.
Yeah, what one of the things that I really, really enjoyed was there was no fluff. And
Yeah.
granted, there were times early on that I kind of to myself was like, wow, like they're kind of moving, but
Yeah.
at the same time, it never felt rushed. Like I want to dive right into it and kind of go piece by piece in the film because as we know, it was essentially done in four distinct sections.
Yep.
So with the first section, we're following the story of a Viking.
Right.
And one of the things that I thought was really nice is they found a way to give her character depth. She was on a mission for revenge, was hunting down her father's killer. And you get like these nice little flashes of backstory as it's going to give enough depth, but still have really incredible action scenes and set pieces. And the thing that I really liked is they allowed her to finish what she was after, and then the predator shows up. And the thing that was crazy is one, just as expected, didn't take any time to just eviscerate her whole team.
Right. And the
But the thing
sheer
I thought
size of him, right?
something I like too is they did a really good job with mirroring the predator to the time period and foe they were after.
Yep.
So I liked that for that version of the predator, it was a giant hulking like and there was no bones about it. Like it showed itself and got to work and that was it. There wasn't a hunt. It was just, hey, I'm after this.
Yeah, it
And
was cool because they like characterized him by their weapon too, like the shield, right? And then the sword and the bullet. Like so cool.
And also, like, I didn't know that was the direction they were going to go, but seeing her fighting with dual shields that
Oh
were
my
sharp,
gosh. That was
that was,
dope.
and that's something I did not see coming. And I was like, that was just epic. And even mirrored in like the Predator's weapon, where he had like that force field breaker thing, like that was a wild take that we've never seen.
And I love too, like obviously before we get to the end of that encounter, we didn't know. I really didn't know if she was going to survive or not. I didn't know if they were going to allow each protagonist to actually survive, right? I know it was called Killer of Killers, like whatever. So I thought the Predator's going to kill like the most lethal warrior, whatever, right? And so like we still get some hope from the human side, which is really cool. But then it also like kind of puts them in an even worse predicament because now they're like the most prized foe of the human race, or like prized warrior of the human race. That was cool. And I also love like with each warrior class, and even like the pilot, right, who really like was not a trained combatant, not for real. You know what I mean? They still managed to make the encounter really, really cool. They managed to uh, really give each protagonist a personality without much dialogue, which was awesome. And like you were saying, the way they were able to weave in the backstory, right? Like with the Viking lady, like her son being killed at the end, even though she won the battle, and it mirrored like when her dad died in her arms, the blood on his face, and she puts the mark on her face. Well, after she's fought her father's killer, and then now this monstrous, monstrous alien, and she thinks, "Oh my God, I can finally rest." Well, then she loses the one thing she's fighting for, which is her kid, and you see like she wipes the mark off his face, and it's just like pitch black. So then, and then hers gets wiped off, and it's kind of like showing like I'm done fighting. You know what I mean? That was cool the way that all ties in together with the pilot and his father, with the two
Yeah.
brothers. Like it was awesome.
And something I really liked that they highlighted really well, which I think I don't want to say gets glossed over, but it's kind of like in the Predator franchise, other than Arnold with the mud scene to like throw off, the
Thermal
Predator's
vision.
thermal vision, like there's never a huge emphasis on the cunning your human protagonist has to take to beat this threat.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that's really cool that they even found a way to weave that into like a Viking story,
Yeah.
especially because Vikings, like, in theory and always shown, in media, are vicious and strong and brutal. And like the
Take
fact
on
of the matter
threats
was,
head on. They're not going to hide.
and the fact that she still found a way, despite that style of fighting, to outsmart the Predator, using the water and the ice to her advantage to trap him and use his own weapon against him to get the kill. Like, that was a really cool touch. And it was just really nicely done throughout in every storyline.
Yeah.
And also, in my opinion, out of all of them, like the Viking one is kind of the tone setter
Yes, absolutely.
because it's visceral, it's in your face, it's aggressive. Like there's not a hunt aspect, there's not like the camouflage and the sneaking around. It's like, hey, like we're here and let's go. And
I
I thought
also
it was
like
just the
it's
perfect
go ahead.
pace setter for the anthology
I
because right
I
out the gate, you get the true vicious hand to hand visceral combat with beautiful story beats throughout that are touched on very well. And it's like, okay, like we're here and we're in for a ride, you know?
yeah. No, absolutely. It like you said, it really captures like this feeling that the humans do stand a chance. Don't count us out just because we're smaller physically and we don't have as much advanced technology. Like humans always, like, it's like we are the creatures that always adapt to survive, and we always find a way. Like we just somehow always find a way, and you see that, and it's really, really cool. And like you said, you know the combat style with the Viking, of course, we know it's going to be brutal and in your face, like but at the same time, it had this like over the top kind of gravitas to it, to where it's like, okay, I'm still watching like a sci-fi animated show. Like it just like really blended that media too, and like utilized like what makes that media form so cool, very well. Because it's like when you're doing action sequences like that, especially in a franchise that's really grotesque, like Predator, like shooting all that in live action, you still have to make it like believable that a human could do that. But like the way that, since it's an animated, like you got, like you said, she got to use like bladed or dual sharp shields, not even swords, to decapitate dudes, and like, it's just like I think it would have
There's a
been
level
difficult to
you can almost,
translate
yeah,
in
there's
live
a
action.
level you can kind of get away with to just
Yeah,
make it a little more, for lack
over
of
the
a better
top.
term, just over the top.
Yeah. So that
And
was cool.
it's just, and then like you said, when you finished a segment, she was the shield, then you go to the sword. And we know for anybody that's a fan of Predator, everybody always wanted to see the Predator in feudal Japan.
Yeah.
Everyone wanted to see them duking it out with samurai. And the thing that I liked about that portion of it, it was the story elements. I don't want to say hit harder, but there was a little more emotion to it because it
1000%.
wasn't pure revenge. It wasn't, you had the story of the two brothers, the one that isn't chosen to be the successor to that lord, and he ends up coming back on the day of the funeral to take what should be his. And you have that really cool dynamic of him sneaking through the castle, taking out guards, and then
The
in the background,
ninja.
yeah, and in the background, you start getting flashes of the predator observing what's happening.
Right.
And I thought that was a nice touch where it's like, okay, you're not going the true, like, I don't want to say hunt aspect, but like he's setting his hunt up, watching this unfold.
Yeah, it also shows like the code aspect. 'Cause, like if he wanted to go in there and just like mess him up, he could have. He could have killed him like multiple times, but he's like, "No, I want you to know I'm here, and we're gonna see what you really got." And the other thing that was really cool was like the way that they divided the culture of each protagonist and blended it with the Predator's different strengths because it's like, okay, the culture of the Viking, it's all about combat and just being the best of the best and show
Brutal
me,
and in
yeah,
your face and
right?
one
And
on
so then you,
one.
yeah, so then you show like the anatomical features of the Predator, hardly any weaponry, no mask, after like once they actually finally get into the thick of it, it's just pure physicality versus physicality. And so it shows like because that's something that like even the original Predator, once he rips off his gear and Arnold kind of like starts to break down his tech, you're still like, holy shit, that's a threatening species of whatever, right? And so you're like, so like the Predator always has that going for them, and then you go into the Ninja, and it's like, oh yeah, like not only are they like, could they rip you in two, right? They also have this like crazy cloaking and camouflage ability. They are masters of stealth. So then you show the culture of the ninja, right? But also the sleekness of a blade, and they have the blade weaponry. Like it's just like
And
so
also
beautifully
the
woven
predator that
together.
had, yes, and also the thing I thought was super cool about that, like mirroring, like you said, the ninja, that predator by far had the most tech, the most weapons at its disposal,
Yes.
the most varied arsenal, and a lot of stuff we've never seen. Like,
Yes.
granted, we saw it with the Viking protagonist. He basically had that one main like force field, like
Yeah.
weapon, prosthetic, whatever it was. And then with the in the ninja and samurai story, you see the spear, you see the bladed whip, you see explosives, camouflage and cloaking, like the classic wrist blades. Like you get a good mix of everything and new stuff.
Well, because it's like
And I
it's
thought it
like
was,
that classic samurai weaponry. It's like, oh, like you know what to expect, but then also the surprise factor of the ninja, like, oh ho ho, I got you. You know what I mean? And it's like the viewer also gets that, like you said, holy shit, we've never seen that. Like we get surprised by the ninja. Like it's just so poetic, bro. I love it.
and what I really liked about the Viking and the ninja and samurai like storylines was they didn't introduce the predator like fully until that storyline kind of came to its head, to its point.
Yeah,
So like with the Viking, she kills the man who was responsible for her father's death. Then the predator arrives,
right,
but was in the background the whole time. Then
right.
you get the ninja finally has the face off with his brother. It looks like he finally wins the face off. By the way, that fight was fucking epic too.
That was
Like
cool
just
too.
between the two of them, like that
Yeah.
was cool because you truly see the strengths of each character. The one having a little more in the covert tactics and like the tricks up his sleeve, while the other is like the true swordsman and seeing where their strengths go as they're fighting. And the predator, is feeling all this out. And then finally, it looks like your ninja protagonist won, but not in the way that he wanted. And then the predator shows up
Yeah.
and then just starts tearing through castle guards. And as this ninja is desperately doing everything he can to get away in this incredible rooftop chase,
That was
and
cool.
like between the smoke grenade, that it was so beautifully done and so fun. And like, even though okay, this is your protagonist, your first protagonist survived, but you're still like the whole time, you're like, how is he going to get out of this?
Heck, yeah, because you see the collar, right? You see him kind of glance to him at the end of the first sequence. I also loved like the brothers fight sequence and their story gave me a mix between the KOTOR like CGI trailer with the two Jedi siblings and
Yes,
then
yes.
yeah and then also like Jin Sakai from Ghost of Tsushima and his uncle, their kind of conflict. Like it's just like they took two of the best renditions that I've seen of that kind of relationship in that setting and blended it together and then threw in a Predator. Like it was just that was my favorite. I think it's safe to say that was probably my favorite segment of the movie.
I would have to agree because I think the Viking truly set the shield set the tone.
Yeah.
The sword like encompassed everything we saw in the first part, but then took it to another level.
Yes.
Because something I thought was a really nice touch with that portion was he's on his last legs, he's running away, he can't handle this thing, and it turns out his brother survived the fall. Then they have like another brief, scuffle and realize, oh crap, we got to do something to take this thing out because it's going to kill both of us. And like seeing that teamwork, seeing their strengths now play to disorient the predator, like it
And
was
take them
just
down
so
together.
cool.
Super cool.
And then still, like you said, and something they mirrored in the Viking episode portion as well, then his brother is killed by the predator.
Yep.
Like, so they kill him together and they finish the fight, but his brother succumbs to his injuries.
Yep.
And then a nice touch that I really enjoyed, which I know you touched on briefly, was like when the Viking wins, she's now on a ship and the ninja is sitting there with his back to her, like reflecting. And then it goes into his story.
Yep.
And then he goes on the ship, and then you see the pilot.
Yep.
So, like, I liked how you got that little glimpse of them, like, already captured. And then, like, the intro was like, oh, hey, what are you doing here? And then, like, none of them can communicate and all that.
Because
But
of the
we'll get
language
into
barrier and the
that.
time period like yeah it was just so like you know with it being such a tight runtime and fitting so much in they just nailed it and they what I really
And they
liked
did
because
it.
yeah, like what I really like about it is that a lot of films these days, especially these big franchises like Predator that have been around for generations and they feel like they always have to one up, you know, the mythos to a degree. There's so much exposition and they're just like, yeah, this happened and this happened 20 years ago and oh yeah, by the way, there's some backstory on this character just to say that they expanded the universe and you don't really actually get to visually see it told. And like this gave us so much more of this world than we've had in the last 10 to 20 years and did it in an hour and a half with minimal dialogue.
Well, and it's also the thing I loved about this movie was the attention to detail.
Yeah.
And I think that's why all these sequences and everything hit so well because we're going to touch on Badlands at the end of the episode just because of the set piece that this had. But something I really liked that they've done with more recent projects like Prey, like Killer of Killers now, is they're expanding on the universe by creating tie-ins that make sense and
Yes.
creating and giving you details that give you information. So like they do a really great job of expanding on it without doing too much or having
Yes.
to just nonsensically explain something. Because if we look at the old Predator films, Predator 1 with Arnold Schwarzenegger and Predator 2 based in LA, like those are truly like the Predator's on the hunt and your most badass character gets the kill in the end. Like it's as
Yeah.
simple as that.
Right.
And I think when we got some of the newer takes, they just tried to do a lot and make something cool. And it like Predators that came out, I think back when we were in high school. I mean, that movie is now pretty old.
It's old now, yeah.
But you basically had all these badass killers dropped on an alien planet, and you had three monstrously gigantic, like badass predators. Like, yeah, that was cool. You couldn't go wrong. It was fun. It was a fun watch, but you didn't really get any information or real
No.
story.
No.
And I like that with Prey, and like you mentioned, minimal dialogue, but so much still being portrayed. Like that, I feel like is the key to these movies, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah.
But what we have to touch on now too is the bullet,
Yeah.
the
And
pilot sequence.
I know we like keep glossing over it like oh it's just a pilot he's not really a fierce warrior and like whatever it was still cool though. Like I want everyone to know like it was still done very well. And like I come from a long line of pilots, right? My great grandfather, my grandfather, my uncle, like all pilots, okay? And I almost like was a pilot. And I'm just saying it runs deep, right? So I have a high respect for um for pilots and the risk that they take, and it takes a lot of skill. So I'm not saying that this guy wasn't worthy of like being in the movie. I'm just saying when you have two warriors who have like harnessed their craft and like utilize their body as a weapon, it's just a totally different take, especially when you see the Predator as like this skilled warrior, right? You don't usually think of an Air Force pilot or a naval pilot as a skilled warrior per se. You think of more as a technician who has like, learned how to control this piece of machinery to the highest level. It's just different.
Well, and on that point, every predator in this mirrors the characteristics of who they're going up against.
Right.
So something I thought was a really nice touch when you see this predator, it almost looks like he's been injured. He's got a lot of tech style upgrades to his physique, and he's really more integrated with his ship. And I
Yes.
thought that was a nice touch of like, hey, I maybe can't actively hunt on the ground like I did before, but now I'm going to be a mastercraft of my ship, and now this is how I'm going to hunt.
And that was cool.
And what a better setting for that than World War II era in the Pacific, where there's constant air to air combat going on.
But
And
also
the thing I
like the most primitive of that technology. So it still gives you like that sense of like, oh shit, like we're just the little humans in the rinkiest, dinkiest aircraft that we can find. How will we ever survive? You know what I mean? It's
Well, and to add
perfect.
insult to injury, like for our main protagonist in this portion, he was a mechanic. You get the sequence of him and his father and him saying, like, how are you ever going to be a pilot if you can't do this?
Yep.
And you see him working on the plane in the hangar of of the aircraft carrier, like doing
Well, his
everything he
dad was
can,
a
just try to,
mechanic, right? And he
yeah.
wasn't. And he was like, "Well, I'm just a pilot." And he's like, "Well, you can't be a pilot if you can't learn to be a mechanic. Because you got to be able to fix this damn thing." You know what I mean?
And then like
And
he's sitting there trying everything he can to fix his plane so we could get back up there. And like it's not going well. Like his superior officers are like, dude, what are you doing? Like this isn't gonna work. You're not getting your flying privileges back.
it's like the
It's something
underdog
I thought,
story, you know?
yeah, and it's kind of more of like the ingenuitive, creative, like kind of scrappy vibe that
Yeah.
like he gives off. And I thought it was cool that like when the Predator is taking out that squadron, like all of his weapons, despite being so advanced, like he's using like a harpoon gun to take out like the planes.
Essentially, yeah.
And you're getting that like visceral of like you see the harpoon go through the plane, take the pilot out and
Which
rip through and get
wild
pulled back.
visual, dude.
Crazy.
Like, could you
And then
imagine?
finally,
Like, it's already terrifying. Like, you're literally in just like a flying hunk of metal, and you don't even know like how long you can sustain flight. There's ships shooting at you. There's other planes shooting at you. Oh, and there's this invisible ship that launches torpedoes that literally go rip through your aircraft into your chest cavity and rip you out, and you're still alive while all of that's going on. Like, terrifying, dude.
well, and then to add insult to injury, your scrappy pilot finally gets his plane going, gets up in the air, and you got the squadron leader and him are the last two left, and he's just like, shit, all right, well, you're what I got, so we got to try and take this thing out.
Yeah,
And the leader sacrifices himself to try and give him an opening, and yet still he has to use creativity and outsmart the Predator. He brings him right into the ground to air cannons to disorient him, and there's this really awesome sequence where he takes the Predator ship out.
that was
but
cool.
like in his but in his sequence in particular, the thing I really liked was they truly leaned to, hey, he outsmarted the Predator.
Yeah.
It wasn't just a battle where he got a creative moment or a lucky moment. Like he truly had to outsmart it solely by himself in that moment to get out of that situation.
And just like the previous encounter, he had to actually utilize the quote unquote enemy to do it. It showed that humans
Mhm.
together still were the key. Because I feel like that's it, right? In all the Predator movies, except for in Prey, I don't think she really had much help, right? But it takes the
No,
tribe.
she did.
Did she?
Her
Okay.
brother.
Oh
Her
yeah,
brother
okay,
was
exactly,
piecing
right.
the Predator up.
That's right. So it takes all of us, right, to take on a threat like that is what essentially they're getting at too. So super cool. I mean, and so then which brings us to the final portion of the movie. Okay, now they've all been captured. They've been plucked from not only like their
Places, but
places, but their
times.
timelines. Yeah, which I thought was cool because I don't think we've really seen that, right? Like,
No, and it's very interesting to see that like they were. We'll get into that part later, but the thing that I liked is they're all captured. They're trying to communicate. None of them speak the same language because not only are they from different regions of the world, but they're from totally different time periods. So like you can argue with like the ninja, like the soldier has the potential to communicate to some degree,
right,
the pilot, because he speaks some horrible Japanese, which he says something completely ridiculous and like it does not go well.
right.
But the Viking, it's like it's a language that doesn't even exist anymore. And the thing that I kind of like is they're able to kind of communicate to a degree with body language, with understanding. And like you see, like that immediately, like the Viking and the ninja both don't respect the pilot. They're
Of
like, you're not a
course,
warrior.
you're not a
Like,
warrior, right?
and they get dropped into this basically arena. And the first thing you see is a predator just get murdered. And
Yeah.
you're just like, what is happening? And then the main predator, the what is it? The clan leader
Dude was
basically tells them all,
terrifying.
you all have to fight one another. You'll each get a weapon from your time period or wherever you came from,
Yeah.
and whoever wins fights me. And I'm like, one, that is a horrible idea because
Yeah,
all these
because either
guys
way you
got here
die.
and they all defeated the respective predator they fought with help to some degree,
Yeah.
whether it was environmental or truly another person helping them out. And obviously, this dude is the baddest of the bad. He's gigantic. He's terrifying. Has all this armor and trophies on him. Like he's a monster.
Did you see the
And they
xenomorph tails on his braids? Wild.
crazy touch, crazy touch. And then they start to fight one another. And the thing I thought was the funniest is the Viking gets an axe, the ninja gets a samurai sword, and he gets a flintlock pistol.
Yeah,
And
not even
by the
from his
way,
era.
the flintlock pistol from Predator 2 and Prey makes
Okay.
its third appearance now. It's the same pistol.
Wild.
So that was a nice Easter egg. But he's just sitting there like, I don't even know how to use this.
Which wild. You're like the least capable guy there. And you're like, really? It's like you might as well give me a stick.
And then like they have to release some monster in the middle of everything to like try and spice up the fight.
Attack of
The
the Clones
samurai,
type shit.
yeah, and the ninja and the Viking take that down together after the pilot is eaten and
Right.
somehow gets out. And
Right.
then he hijacks a speeder in the middle of all of this. And they all get off and they're like, all right, he's like, I got a ship, I can get us out of here.
It's
And
like,
then they
okay.
have this insane interaction with the lead predator where he throws an axe and just eviscerates the speeder they steal.
Yeah.
And they're trying everything they can to get away and get free. And when they finally do, the only reason they pull it off is because the Viking recognizes both of them as warriors and sacrifices herself.
Yeah. Well, and even the fight, right? Where they're like fighting the clan leader or whatever before they get into the ship and try to take off, and realize like, hey, we cannot survive unless one of us, sacrifices whatever, ourselves, whatever. Is like they do not stand a chance, and he could have killed them all multiple times, but he like lets them go, like to toy with them to show them like, hey, this is my world, right? I rule. But then it's like, you know. They get up in the ship. She slides back down the chain, sacrifices a warrior sacrifice so she can go to Valhalla, whatever. Super cool. And then they get away, and you're like, "Whew, that was a ride." And
That
then all
was
of a sudden,
close.
and then he's like, "All right,
Now
let's
it's
go
time to
on."
hunt.
And then like all these ships take off. You're like, "What?" It's like so it ends on a cliffhanger, a scary cliffhanger, because it's like not only are they probably searching for them, but who knows whoever else, what other what other humans that they're trying to take down, right?
Or, if they've done this X amount of times, how many humans have escaped, if any?
Right. And then you see
And
at the post credit, there's like all these humans in like Bacta tanks,
Stasis.
essentially stasis tanks, right? And even
Well,
the lady from Prey makes her
well,
appearance.
and one thing I wanted to touch on as well was I feel like something that has always been missing from Predator films is you never get a sense of scale or how many predators there really are, what their hierarchy. Like you never get any of that
Right.
because it's always one and at
True.
most three.
Right.
So like you usually at most only see one ship. It's usually focused on one predator at a time. Even in the films where there are three, like when you watch the original AVP, two of them are killed almost instantly, and it's basically a one man show.
Yeah.
When you watch Predators back in the day, there's four predators on screen at some points. One is a prisoner, and all the other three you basically get in individual moments outside of like one or two camera shots.
Yeah.
So like you really never get an idea of scale, how powerful they are, what their forces and numbers. And like actually seeing that on screen where you see dozens of ships take off at the same time all going after them and you're like, "Hey, like it took everything that these top tier warriors had with crazy amounts of environmental and physical help from other people to take out one.
Right.
And now the two that barely got out by the skin of their teeth have dozens to possibly hundreds going
Hundreds.
after them."
Yeah. Yeah, and it's like you said, you bring up a good point about not knowing the scale and size of their clans and stuff. Because like I will say, also based on just like their appearance, like the loin cloths and like the primitive weaponry, you do think of them like, oh, it's probably this little tribe that lives on this barren planet, and it's like a really sacred group of warrior race of aliens that do this, right? That's like they're the only ones in the galaxy that do this. But now you kind of see like, okay, there's a whole planet of these individuals, and are there more? Do they conquer planets? Right? Are there different
Well, and
races within the species? Like crazy
Well, and
stuff.
we've had hints of that through the movies we'd had over the years
Right?
between the regular predators we have in Predator 1, Predator 2, AVP. But then you get to predators, and there's clearly a different subspecies because they're bigger and scarier than the
Yeah.
regular ones we've seen. Then you have in the more recent movie the Super Predator, which that I don't even want to get into that, but still.
Right.
And now you're getting a gauge of like hierarchy where you have a leader, you have the rest of the predators. I mean, they murdered one predator in the arena, so what did he do? You know what I mean? Like there's this hierarchy
Yeah.
now, and something like, because I've been doing a little more like diving on YouTube to find out more about lore and specific characters and all that from the comics. And like the crazy part is the predator we saw on screen isn't even the leader of the planet. He's just the leader of that clan.
Wow.
So like in a
Like
world
he's somebody's
where
bitch, essentially.
in a world essentially where like your honor is based on what you can hunt, and one of the things that a lot of these things hunt and kill a ton of are xenomorphs,
Yeah.
which we also know with xenomorphs, like the classic drone we see on TV is one of the weaker versions of that they hunt.
Which is wild.
So like you think about, okay, this is a group or a species that hunts and kills and tries to find the most dangerous stuff to go after. And this guy's wearing one of the scariest things anybody's ever seen on TV as braids.
Yeah.
And he's not even the big dog where he lives. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like you start to see like this scale starts to show itself and you're like, hold the phone. And
Yeah.
then something we have to discuss is the Easter egg you mentioned. You see the girl from Prey is in one of those stasis pods.
Right. Which is wild.
And it also makes you think, wait, has anybody that's ever killed a predator
Ever gotten
been
away?
taken?
Yeah, I think
So
that's what they're getting at, right?
so does that mean, hear me out, hear me out. Does that mean if we get a Predator Killer of Killers sequel, we're going to see an animated version of Arnold Schwarzenegger's Dutch?
Dude, that'd be lit. Sign me up.
And I'm not
And
saying
like he's still alive. You could totally cast him and do it justice.
and have the voice nail, do really good animation, like really kick ass with it.
Dude, do you know how, and I know we're really getting out there, but if you want to like make it a full 80s revival, imagine a Terminator Alien Predator crossover. Wow. AI versus aliens. Crazy.
Well, dude, imagine this is something I think would be crazy to say. They run, they obviously run. We know they're not going to get off planet. Like we just know that's not going to
Yeah, for
happen.
sure. For sure.
And imagine if Schwarzenegger's Dutch is on the planet and has been surviving for years
Oh
out of
my gosh,
stasis,
that would
and
be
he's the only other character that's gotten away.
crazy.
And
The
you get this
OG.
crazy team up with you get the girl from Prey, you get Schwarzenegger, and you get the samurai and the pilot now all trying to hunt and survive and like
Dude.
pure
Yes.
speculation,
Give
but
me that.
could be
Give me
insane.
that. No, that would be epic. And then maybe you even get, they're
You
releasing
do
they're doing Badlands, right? And we know it's a Predator protagonist, right? He's a warrior trying to prove himself, whatever. Imagine like he's not all for killing innocent it's like he grew up with the hunt, but he's not really all about it, and he helps these people escape. Like that would be cool. Having one of their own working against them on the planet,
that could be a nice tie-in. I mean,
because we
I
see
honestly
in
think,
the poster that was recently released, he's like working with a human. Well, actually, I think she's a Utani, Wayland Utani
yeah, it's
robot.
a
So
robot.
mm, either way, there's some holes there, but it could be cool.
Yeah, and I mean, so obviously what we have to talk about now is, something we discussed talking about the new movies coming out, through the summer. Killer of Killers was obviously something we discussed. And, I think this movie not only truly served its purpose, and I think for both of us, we kind of went into this film going, okay, like, give us something to sink our teeth into as like a nice kind of appetizer per se to hold us off until Badlands. Because this earlier we got Alien Romulus, which was awesome. Now we get the Predator back on screen. Okay. But this not only like made me feel like, oh, okay, like I can now like deal with the wait until Badlands. Like this made me go, hold on, where's the sequel to this movie?
Yeah, dude. I
Like,
was just as hyped, if not more hyped about this than I have been any other Alien versus Predator, like any Alien or Predator project, and I don't know how long. Maybe since I saw AVP,
and the thing that really hypes me up for this is, I don't want to say concerned, but like I've always wanted an AVP revival. I feel like it's something that's been danced around for a while because we never truly got like a really solid like Predator installment. Because like in more recent years, like up until the recent string of movies, Prometheus we got, which was really well done, really incredible. Then we got Covenant, which just was not great.
No,
So it
terrible.
kind of felt like the steam it had built had kind of gotten shot. But then Romulus did a great job encapsulating the old feel of Alien and was just awesome. You get Predator Killer of Killers. We know Badlands in the works. We know Alien Earth is coming out in
Yeah,
August.
yeah, it should be good.
And with all this, with the bit of universe building they've been able to create too and show a lot of these connections, I'm like, man, like they're really teeing this up and teeing up an AVP revival and something that could be really cool because we know Badlands is going to be told from the perspective of the Predator.
Right.
Imagine an AVP film where that's the way they do it.
Be cool.
Because now you can kind of get into some nitty gritty and dive into the xenomorphs a little more, show us more than two types, really make it like a large scale, insane hunt.
Yeah, I think it would be awesome. I think it would be awesome. I think, I mean, you got my head spinning on these like crossovers and stuff now too, because it's like, so Disney obviously owns these franchises now, right? Which at first, like, because especially after everything we saw with Star Wars and Marvel, I was like, oh no, they're gonna ruin this. They're gonna run it into the ground, whatever. And I know you don't follow the comics as much, but like there are Predator versus Wolverine comics and Predator or Alien versus the Marvel Universe comics that are going on like right now. And I'm like, I would love for Disney to do like an R-rated project where they take like the baddest of the bad Marvel heroes and they do like a crossover. It'd be so cool. Or like, we saw in the Badlands trailer, that Independence Day alien skull head. Like, give me a crossover there because since the sequel of Independence Day, Independence Resurgence was so bad, like my my inner child just needs a good sequel to that. Put it in this universe. Like I'm just my head's spinning on all the possibilities, dude. It's so cool. It's like a great time to
And
be a
it's
fan of
cool
this
that
franchise.
yeah, and like I feel like in my personal take, like sci-fi just has not been like nailed for a
No,
while
not in a minute.
because like Star Wars has had a bad fall off.
Yeah.
Dune was a really good sci-fi film. Like I really enjoyed Dune Part 2, and it really reinvigorated like my appreciation for the first one as well, like getting to see those films together. But like outside of that, and Dune only ever got two films in the past as well.
Right.
So like now that they're actually going to expand on it, that's pretty cool. We know we're getting another Avatar sequel. Like it's a good time to be a sci-fi fan. Like it seems like things are starting to go in a good direction, and we're getting some franchises and some ground we haven't really touched yet,
Yeah.
which is going to be really
Yeah, because I don't feel like we have gotten much original content. There's no new franchises coming out, but also like the reboot and continuation projects that we've gotten from popular franchises like just hasn't hit.
it hasn't. And something I'm really pumped about with Predators, it seems like they're really taking a dive into the lore,
Yeah.
which there's so much really high quality like Predator and Alien comic book runs and material to go off of. It's kind of cool to see like, hey, they might be opening that box to really expand this franchise and do a lot of cool stuff.
Well, and how nice is it? And I know we probably got to wrap this up, but like, how nice is it that we're getting a franchise that's really beloved, but also knows that they need to do something big to revitalize it, and they're willing to change the formula to do something new. Like they did an anthology, essentially animated movie, right? They're doing, like you said, they're changing the perspective of, instead of it being from the humans, something relatable. They're having the protagonist in their next film be the predator, be the bad guy, right? Of most of their films, like more franchises that want to reboot, all they do is they take the formula of what worked in the first one or second one and they try to make it bigger, and instead of actually changing the substance of the film. And it's like, yeah, you can sit there and argue, well, the reason that it made money and the reason that people came and watched it was because of this. Yeah, that's true. But if it's already been done, we don't need to see it again. Like, show me those characters, show me that setting, and flip it. Give me something new, because guess what? I'll appreciate you at least swinging for the fences and trying something new rather than trying to replicate what's already been done. Like, I think that's what killed the Jurassic World sequel trilogy, is that they just kept trying to replicate what came before it, and
And when they made changes, they didn't work or make
they just
sense.
didn't work. Right, exactly. By the time they got to the third movie, they're like, "Oh my God, we're gonna change it. Instead of giant dinosaurs roaming the earth, we're gonna have giant bugs." It's like, no, no, and we're gonna. Oh, remember the cloning thing? Yeah, we're gonna bring that up in humans. It's like, no, that's not what we meant. Like, you know what I mean? Like you said, there has to be some nuance to it. It has to be justified, and it has to be a cool, creative
And it
change.
does have
But
to make sense with what you've done. You can't just
yeah,
completely throw out what was done previously. And I'll
yeah,
be the first to say, as somebody who truly loves the Alien franchise, the Predator franchises, like these are like they're true cult classics when it
yeah,
comes down to it.
yeah.
And the way you make something like that truly popular is you have to really capitalize on the things that made it popular, but you have to break it out of being a cult classic.
A niche, yeah.
Like, and granted, obviously it's always going to be niche to a degree because
Sure.
it's brutal, it's violent, it's sci-fi, which in and of itself is a niche.
True. That's true.
But you have to like nail the things that were done well and then expand on the portions where people are like, hey, you know what? We never got information about this. I kind of want to know what the deal is.
Yeah.
And that's why I like the route Badlands is taking with not only the predator being the protagonist, but you're not taking a seasoned veteran hunter. You're taking a predator that's trying to prove himself still
Yes.
with this incredible hunt. And it's like, all right, well, what's his story? Is he just trying to prove himself? Was he banned? Like, what's the backstory here?
Right.
And like those are the things I'm really excited to see play out on screen. on
And
top
you
of a badass hunt.
Well, yeah, and you know there's going to be like a greater conflict, right? And there's going to be an overarching, narrative that shows a deeper threat, whatever, right? And that's really cool because the trailers, although they've showed us a lot of the tone and what they're kind of going for, and like like we talked about earlier, the Easter eggs of Weyland Yutani and Alien and Independence Day and all that stuff, we still don't exactly know what's going to be
How the
happening in
whole
the film.
plot's going to even
And I
kind of flesh
love
out.
that. Yeah, and I love that
Me too.
because nowadays, man, you watch two trailers like, well, I know what's going to happen. And then you get into the theater and you were right about 90% of it, and that sucks.
95 to 98.
95. Yeah. Like look at Captain America Brave New World, right? Like I think the movie wouldn't have got such a bad rap even though it went through like hell and multiple reshoots if we didn't see the third act of the film in the trailer. Like,
I think if you left any Red Hulk promotional material like out of the trailers, that would have hit so much harder.
yep. And especially for the casual
And
audience, right? That didn't know what was going to happen, you know?
and even like another movie that really did this that I think they incredibly shot themselves in the foot, Batman vs Superman,
Oh
which the
yeah.
extended version is a movie I really enjoy,
Yeah.
but like showing Doomsday in the trailer was just stupid. It's like that would have
Yeah.
been such a cool movie thing that a lot of people would not have seen coming,
And that was
including
a
myself.
and that was the thing that they were, remember that time of nerd movies and TV shows where like, okay, let's say something released, like up to the release, they would have like that one trailer and you're like, okay, I built some hype, build some hype, build some hype. And then after opening weekend, after all the true nerds really went and saw it, they're like, "Oh yeah, here's something really cool we put in the film. We're gonna spoil it for you on TV, and then maybe you'll still come watch it." It's like, no, like
Well, to
no,
be fair, also that trailer did come out before the movie came out.
did it?
Like, so that was a time, and it still happens, which is one of the reasons I do my best to avoid trailers now. Like, unless I go to the movies and see a trailer, then I'm like, it is what it is.
Right.
But usually, when you get that final trailer, it reveals like a big third act plot point. It's like you get a
Sickening.
teaser, and it's like the same formula every time amongst every franchise. It feels like, they do an announcement, you maybe get like 5 seconds of something on screen, and then like it cuts to like the title card.
Sure.
Then you get a full length trailer where they're like, oh, by the way, everything in the trailer was only from the first act of the film. You get a second trailer that kind of expands on it, and then the third trailer just gives you way too much fucking shit.
Yeah. Yeah, and you don't even need to go see the movie. Yeah, you're right. That
And that's after
sucks.
500 people have broken down all the other trailers and every Easter egg you missed, and you're just like, oh, I already know what's happening because of this.
Yeah. And they like break it down frame by frame. They'll look like, see the reflection in his fingernail? Yeah, we know that's actually a Galactus cameo. And you're like, what? Like, wild, dude.
Yeah, and that's why like I'm more pumped for some of like the untouched territory films.
Yeah,
Like I know we talked about it. We had our summer discussion of films we're pumped for. Like one of the reasons I'm pumped for Jurassic World, despite the fact that the trilogy outside of the first one I didn't really totally enjoy.
sure.
Like it feels like new ground. You're not just going with the same characters. You're doing a new storyline. Like, and I can appreciate that on a new island with some new twists and turns. Like, okay, you're going back to your old school formula, but you're doing some different things. This could be cool. And it's kind of the same vibe I'm getting with Predator, where I'm like, okay, like this has revitalized a lot of hype I've had for the series.
Yeah.
But the plus here is we just got a movie that was freaking awesome and
Yeah.
arguably one of the better Predator films, if not the best.
Dude, I'm up here with thinking it's the best.
I,
Like, it's hard to say because it's like the franchise began in live action. It's like, it'd be like calling the Clone Wars the best of Star Wars. Like, you can't really do that. But like, overall, action sequences and narrative, it's pretty damn good. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I mean, as far as a standalone Predator film, I would probably give a slight edge to the OG just because it really did introduce everything and the nostalgia is just incredible. But
yeah.
this was a truly phenomenal film, like start to finish.
And it's crazy because like when we watched Prey last year or however many years ago that was now, gosh, it feels like it was just last year. I was like, oh my God, that's the best Predator movie. They, you know what I mean? Like that's cool. They really did it outside of the original. And it's like I would watch Killer of Killers 3 times before I would watch Prey again. You know, I don't know. It's just that much better
It's also, dude, it's pacing.
pacing.
With
Yeah,
Prey, as phenomenal as that film is, and I think it kind of even goes for the first Predator as well. Like the tension and suspense is what makes those movies so great.
true.
It's kind of like when we watched what was it? Invisible Man, when they
Yeah, it's
did the
like the Jaws
remake.
effect, you know?
Like the not knowing what's going to happen next is a big part of what makes the movie great.
Yeah, so like
So
on
like when you
rewatchability, you're like, mm,
but to be honest, I don't necessarily look at that as like my factor to defining whether like I love a film.
fair.
Like rewatchability depends on the type of movie.
Yeah,
Like if I'm just looking for something fun, I have my go-tos I'm going to put on.
right.
If I want just pure action, like I'll probably throw in a John Wick movie
Yeah,
because they're awesome. The action scenes are dope. The story is simple and to the point, and it's just great.
yeah. Keanu
It's
Reeves at
like,
his best.
but like a film that was truly fantastic, but rewatchability wise, I think is almost zero. The Joker with
Yeah,
Joaquin Phoenix, the first one. It's an incredibly done film. It's heavy hitting. It's tense. It hits so many notes so beautifully, but it's not something you're just going to throw on.
no. Hell no. I'd have to go to therapy for a week if I just threw that on casually, you know what I mean?
But another movie I think of too is Dune. As
Yeah.
really good as Dune Part 2 is, I've only seen it a handful of times because like it's one of those movies you need to sit down and pay attention and enjoy the
Or like
nuance of.
Inception, right? All those movies.
Yes.
Or Interstellar. Like Interstellar's great, but like once you know the plot, you're just kind of like, oh, okay. Because like the whole time you're just trying to figure out like what is going on with this bookshelf and all this,
Yeah.
stuff. Cool,
Yeah.
man.
So I mean, we went on quite a few tangents there, but when push comes to shove, I mean, I think the Predator franchise is back, man,
I think it's back,
and in
baby.
full force.
Yeah, now I'm excited to see what's to come, and really we don't have to wait that much longer. We got we're already almost to July, so August, September, October, 4 months. It's pretty good. Till
Yeah, and we got
Badlands
so
comes out.
many, and we have so many incredible movies to go see in the interim. I mean, dude, we got just for our fans out there, if you're not aware of some of the stuff coming out, How to Train Your Dragon just released. Lilo and Stitch came out a few weeks ago. We got
Banger, banger alert.
we got Jurassic World, Superman, Fantastic Four, Alien Earth is coming out in August.
Yeah,
Ballerina just came out, the John Wick
yeah, I
spinoff.
heard that was good.
And then Badlands is in November, but I know there's going to be films coming out in September and October too that are going to be bangers. So we got a
Yeah,
lot of good stuff coming our
yeah,
way.
and then it doesn't
I
slow
can't
down,
wait.
right? Next year's wild too. So, all right, man, what's a good time to be a nerd?
100%.
All right, brother. Well, as always,
Stay nerdy, everyone.
stay nerdy.